Alright, so what this is, it's an idea that I'm calling Cube. And Cube is when people gather to have a conversation about a certain topic, like we're about to discuss race. And I created this idea because I believe in the power of conversation. Because just by simply learning from each other's life's experience, we can add into others' lives. And if you guys flip open the page, it'll give you an idea of how I'm gonna go about doing this. So with each cube, there's certain roles you can play. So there's a role of the crowd, which is what you guys are. There's a role of the host, which is what I'm doing here. And when you assemble certain, I call them characters, together, you have a cube. And so if I turn to the next page, you can see how this will begin to be formed. And the idea is to get people starting their own cubes by using this format. So whether you want to talk about climate change, or you want to talk about gender inequality, you can then use this format to form your own cube. And on the next page, here's an example of an alternative cube. This is a cube of the guest. The guest functions as adding a unique perspective onto the topic at hand, so the crowd can learn. And that's how I really see this idea starting to grow. It's still a work in progress, so don't judge it too hardly. But I really do appreciate you guys coming out to try to test out this idea of mine. And so to start it off, I wanted to ask you guys a question, which is why is race important to you guys? Or
I think race is important because it helps us recognize differences in each other so that we can be sensitive to where some people may be coming from versus experiences that I may not have had. I think race helps me understand and do the best I can to be empathetic and reach out to other people in different walks of life. In that sense, I think race is helpful to me to understand it, because I can't really change the fact that people come from different races. I don't know if that word is the right word, if that's what you're trying to get at, to change the word or the nomenclature, but I think people definitely come from different, diverse, biological strains of humanity. And so by having races, I think it helps to be a better citizen.
I think that is a very good point. But coming out from a sociological point of view, so I'm a fourth-year PhD doctoral student from sociology, and we are more kind of looking at deconstruction of race. As much as we have the perception that different people from different race, may have different experiences, I feel race is very important because it affects people's life and their experiences. Like the class I taught yesterday on race, I said that I have the opportunity to live in UK, London, for 4 years. And as much as there are various racial categories in the UK, compared to the US, my experience here in the US was tremendous, looking at the racial tension. I cannot really compromise how racial tension is more in the US as compared to the UK. So my point, in addition to what he said, is that race is very important because the classification of people as perceived that, these are African Americans, they are different from me. But studies have shown that there's even more variations among people who call themselves like African Americans, because there's so many variations among us if people call themselves Caucasian. I may align with him more than I may even align with somebody of the same skin color. So the main point and the main thing that we have as to, this person is different from me, sociologists try to take the step that we need to deconstruct and realize that we are all one, though we might have different experiences.
yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel that it's really only here to separate one another from each other. Because if I look at my skin, it's just skin, but it's just tied to a lot of things that are behind it, and most of them are negative for some reason. But and just to add on, this is really just a place to be open and honest, no judgments. I didn't put that into the first part, but I just wanted to let everybody know that. So do you guys have any like experiences with race that you wanted to share or anything along those lines?
I didn't really have a personal one, but I read a lot. So one of the stuff I normally tell my class when it comes to race is how the fact that you are a person of a particular color, people try to stigmatize you. And studies have shown that there was a study that shows that there was a study conducted to show people of the same resume, they have the same CV, they are applying the same job. The same job, the same resume. The only difference, the same qualification. So he has a PhD in sociology, he has a PhD in sociology. The only difference was their name, okay? One had a name of a typical, as we say, African American name, Kyla stuff, and one has this typical Caucasian white name. The study found that when they sent out the number of calls that employers gave, it was high for people with CVs with white name in quotation mark compared to that. And he was surprised that if the same thing, the same CV, the same qualification, how come they wouldn't have the same rate? So a lot of studies have shown how employers in organizations discriminate just based on race or name. And that is, as I said, I have no experience, but my extensive research shows that it is very, very pervasive, especially within American society.
Well, most employers, it's pretty difficult for them to deal with the issue of diversity. And most employers like to hire people pretty much like themselves.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever seen the commercial where it's 5 guys sitting on one side of the room, and there's one other guy sitting on the other side of the room. And he looks over and he sees all the history of the company, and all of those who've been in the company had shaved heads. So he ran and shaved his head real quick. And when the guy who's going to do the interview came out, he's the only one with the shaved head. And they did like this, so you know he's going to get the job.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think a lot of it has also, a lot of things with race has to do with perception, people's perception, because I can tell you from experience, my wife is Caucasian.
Okay.
But most people perceive my wife to be African American because one, she's married to me, but two, her acclimation has been African American most of her life.
Okay.
And so all of her characteristics and everything is like she's African American. And I've encountered times where we would be in a particular community, and I've been in 4 different communities in my career, is that they believe that she's African American to the point that they will invite her to be in African American groups. For instance, like the National Council on Negro Women.
Wow.
They asked her, would you be, because they think she's African American. But the point I'm making is that perception plays a lot into race. And when people's perception of African Americans is versus Hispanic, Latinos versus Caucasian, it's what their perception is. And even for myself, it not only plays for me by being African American, but it plays for me by being a pretty good sized individual. You see what I'm saying? When I come into a room, I'm pretty good size, so people's perception is, might not want to mess with that guy. You know what I mean? So it has to do a lot with what people perceive you to be, and so that plays a lot into the issue of race.
Yeah, I would like to share my experience. I had a couple actually, but I would share the one that back in Boston. I lived in Boston for like 3 years, and I was there at the period of the Boston Marathon bombing, 2012. So after the event happened and stuff, people used like to pass by me, and look at me in a weird way, Oh, are you holding a bomb? I was like, oh, I felt more sorry for them than me, because now you're afraid, like the guy who like talked to me was like, oh, even though if he was joking or just just trying to criticize me. But the other thing, I had another American friend who was he called me after the event right away. He was like, you just don't worry about anything. I know my people. I know how racist they are. So anything would happen to you, just let me know. I would be like on your side. I know you. For me, I don't judge people, based on color, on religion, on where they're from. I mean, I can't judge a person by knowing him, sit with him, just we have a conversation, But this is bad, and as you just said, this is the only issue here in America that's it's not been solved
That
yet.
not have been solved.
Yeah.
I believe every individual, like him or her, represent him or herself. Like it doesn't matter where you come from or what your religion or what your color. So.
Yeah, about representing a race. Like in that video you showed the other day with the girl who was the only black girl in her class. Every time they brought up a black subject, everybody felt that she spoke for the whole race. But I view it as being you're just speaking for yourself as an individual. You can't speak for other people. It's the same concept as me speaking for you, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I think that we should really start viewing each other as humans first, and then if skin tone plays any role, if anything, maybe just for the culture. But
That's a good point, and I think one of the reasons race is so challenging, at least in our country, and it's interesting you brought up the difference between the UK, and I lived in England as well, and I noticed a very, palatable difference in how people deal with races. And one of the interesting things about America is that this place is the only country founded as a melting pot. So it was actually, and it still continues to be the country that brings in the most immigrants every single year. Our country will be sustained in the next 30 years because of the immigrants that will come here. It'll build and build, and it'll only get more diverse. The whiteness in this country gets less and less every single day. And soon, I think by 2030, will be a majority of minorities in this country. And I think the race issue is one that both needs to be discussed and solved, whatever that means, as soon as we can because of that coming reality. But it's also a challenge for us, I think, because we've oftentimes embraced new cultures. The Germans came, the Irish came, the Asians came, all these different waves into the United States, and they always came in with the idea of becoming American. What has happened in the recent years is people come to America and they're trying to maintain their culture and not become American. There's something now to an entrenchment that we're almost reversing our progress. And so I think the kind of things that you're doing here and these kind of discussions are essential more than ever because our progress is now starting to go backward. Maybe it's because of things like 9/11 that really made people start looking at people differently. But that experience you had there, I can completely see people in Boston, or anywhere else for that matter, making those rude comments. Not all of them.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that subset of people that take out their fear in an angry way on people that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
For that matter, the Boston Marathons in 2003 were carried out by people with Russian descent. Are you Russian?
No.
Right. What point is that,
Yeah.
right? That just shows the ignorance that's driving a lot of the negativity.
exactly. But so off of what you said, how would you? Do you guys think that we should just basically? Do you think it's possible for people to just forget about race and move forward, or because honestly, I don't know how anything like that would.
No, that's not going to happen. Because you also have to remember people's heritage. See, people have heritage, and you'll never get away from your heritage. But at the same time, as you were saying, you have to be able to take what your heritage is and blend it with other folks' heritages. You know what I'm saying, and with other folks' cultures and backgrounds are. And that's when you talk about the United States of America now. To me, is less of a melting pot now than what I would call as a salad now. Because when we talked about the melting pot before, it was basically Caucasian and African American. And back then, because the African American had been called four, well, let's see, N-word, colored, black, African American. So it's been four titles that we've had since we've been in this country.
Wow.
But at the same time, a lot of race plays into the power structure. See, that's the other thing you need to understand. Folks don't want to let go of power. And race helps keep a lot of power with a certain segment of the population. So you have to understand how that structure works too, and how it plays into race, because it's just been that way in this country for a long time. And for African Americans, we the only group that came here not by choice. You know, not by choice. We didn't come here by choice. We came here by force. And so, you know, that heritage still plays into people's conscience. It plays into people's experiences and all of these things when you start talking about race. So it to me, it has the race issue and the economic issue had to be solved at the same time, because it's really about power at the end of the day. You hear it all the time, and it's a tough thing in this country. What did they say? 100 families in this country have more economic power than the whole African American race. You know, that's pretty lopsided, if you ask me. So, you know, to me, both of the issues have to be dealt with simultaneously.
Yeah. Regarding the economic issue, I think it really expands, at least it's starting to really expand outside of just an African American issue. It's really just a people issue, like who are of lower wealth. Because like I think Professor Enoch, with that video you showed us, I think 1% of the population on Earth owns like half of the world's wealth or something like that.
That's the point I'm making, yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad.
And let's look at what their race are.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
oh, okay, I got you. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about like anything else they want to get a question out on about race?
I think about, you just asked about, can we just forget about race? It's, as you said, like it's impossible to do. But I think media also plays a big role. Like what we see in media, especially like being for us like Muslims, it's bad. I mean, what they show, and like the average American person like stays at their house and they just look at the TV, you know, what they see, you know, bombing and stuff. But that actually not us, you know what I mean? So I think if we control the media, not control, like show the reality, not the bad stuff, show the good and bad stuff, both sides. So I mean, could be helpful.
That's even that ties up to what he said about power and
Yeah.
race. We ask ourselves, who people even control this mass media? The same people, so they end up having this distortion. And my first year over here at the Department of Sociology, I was asked to do a content analysis. A content analysis is where you analyze whether video, newspaper, and see what goes on. So I was very curious because when I came to the US, anytime I watch ABC News, they say somebody bad has done something bad, it is African American. So my topic was to look out for the reports on crime and offenders and victims and try to document how many people are being labeled as this. When I watched morning news, afternoon, evening, they rate different ABC News, CBS. If the victim is white, the offender is. And when I documented, it was more proportionally linked to African American compared to having a situation where the victim is black and the offender is white. So when I did this content analysis and analyzing, that was my presentation. I realized that the media is very, very biased. That doesn't mean that African American are only people who commit crime. But that doesn't mean that people of a different race like Asian Americans or Caucasian don't commit. But it's all boils down to mass media, as you said. And when we ask ourselves, who control the mass media? So race is a very important, I'm very, very passionate. When I came here, I wasn't that passionate because in Ghana, I come from Ghana, Africa, so many miles. We are people of the same color. Nobody cares about any of this thing. But my experience in the US and about racial tension, about Black Lives Matter, things that goes on, the relationship between police force and this stop and rules can be made, stop and search. But studies have shown that which people are more likely to be stop and search, either Hispanics or African Americans. You know, so race is a very, very hot button topic. It is a hard time, it's the best time for us to go out, to educate people, to make them aware that yes, we can have different experiences, but we are one people, as much as we can live in a community where we can have solidarity among us. It is something that it is hard time. So I really appreciate Corey's effort of organizing this, that this is an opportunity for, I don't know, Ghanaians, someone might be American, someone might be Hispanic. This is the community that we are. We have to come together to support one another. So I think a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. This is a step. We shouldn't sit at it. We should still go forward and try and educate people. So that's a good job for you to organizing this program. That's what you.
Great.
Thank you guys for coming out. And by the way, we don't have to stay on race. If the conversation starts going somewhere else, that's cool too. But
Well, thank you. This is a good topic. And then when I talked to you yesterday, Corey, one of the things I wanted to make sure of is that everybody has an opportunity to contribute. Because when you do these type of focus groups, you know, you got strong personalities like myself and Ian and the professor, we'll kind of dominate if you know, but I really would like to hear from you.
Great point. Great point.
That's good.
I don't know what you have to add.
Okay.
I think it was really interesting, especially because I come from France, and I think that the United States and France are like countries, developed countries, and we could think that there is a lot of tolerance towards race and stuff like that, but I think there are still problems and issues about race, even in France, usually when, and I think it's because probably of terrorism and stuff like that right now, when you have like skin which is not white, usually you judge people, like, for example, and that's sad, but I have a friend who is from Saudi Arabia, and he's judged all the time. He's a terrorist for other people, and that's not fair because, so usually I think we link like race and terrorism, and that's not fair. It's just, there's a...
Coming over as and I do think we should hear from everybody, but I just wonder, coming over as a foreign student, but looking Caucasian, what's your, do you get it treated generally pretty good because people figure you're white, it's all good?
That's a good question.
I'm interested in that.
I mean, I have a good experience here. People are really welcoming, and I think it's probably because I'm from France, I don't know. For example, my roommates are like, oh, you're from France? So, and some of my roommates are black, and another one is Caucasian, so we are like, what about race? We don't care.
Right.
We are friends, whatever. You're American, I'm French, whatever. It's just, so.
Yeah, I think the other thing, we talked about this earlier before the folks who started. Myself, I'm 61 years old, and so I've been part of the greatest population boom in this country's history, the baby boomers. And the baby boomers, I think we were talking about 42 to about 1942 to about 1970. About half of the people who live in this country were born in that time. They are the last group, in my estimation, that's still holding on to this race issue. I don't believe, and that from what I've seen, the younger generation does not seem to hold these staunch racial biases and whatever. It's this group that's still holding on to it. So Most of us probably got another, maybe 20 to 25 years
to go.
to exist in this country. So as that continues to move forward, you'll see more, less and less, and as it becomes more of a diverse population, you'll see more racial harmony than you've seen that. But you still got these staunch people who are still holding on to these issues that have gone back generations. And it's taught. You're taught to be racist. You don't come out, I'm sorry ladies, you don't come out the womb being racist. That's a culture and that's a expression that is taught to people as they're coming up. That you're not supposed to mix with African Americans, you don't be with Hispanics, you don't be with Asians. That has been taught. So I believe a lot of it will continue to subside as the baby boomers age out and expire. But at the same time, I'm still going to maintain that even with that, there's going to have to be more of an economic equality in this country dealing with race. No question about it, because when you look at who is on the lower end of the totem pole, the higher you go up, the more white it's going to be. The lower you come down, the more diverse in color it's going to show you in the economic ladder. So it definitely plays a part.
What do you think about that, Corey? Like, from your perspective, do you think to fix that, like things like reparations are what we need to do, or what's the answer?
Nah, that's a tough one because I view myself as an individual first, and then I'm connected to like the black concept by others' perceptions, like you were saying. But it's hard. I can't speak for everyone,
No.
but maybe not a reparation, but maybe a statue would do. I'm not sure if there's a single statue dedicated to like slavery or something like that.
But yeah, I don't think reparations will ever happen. But I do think opportunity is what's going to open the door. If there's more opportunity given, then more people will be successful. I believe it was the actor, the one that plays in How to Get Away with Murder. Y'all watch that? Yeah.
Viola Davis.
Yeah, Viola Davis. When she received her, she just won a Golden Globe Award. And what she said was, there are great actors and actresses of diversity. The last two Oscars, there was no nominations for people of color. All she was saying, if you give us more of an opportunity to act and portray characters, we will win more Oscars and Golden Globe Awards and Emmys and whatnot. But opportunity. And I spent most of my career working for an organization that's been about equal opportunity. And that's the key. People got to have an opportunity. People of the same level of education, or same level of experience and that sort of thing. That's where the affirmative action came in, and you're seeing that being eroded now too. But it's all about opportunity, if you ask me, and that's how we'll get to more of an equal playing field across the spectrum.
From like our generation, do you guys ever really see people around our age being racist or whatnot? Because I seldomly ever see that. Do you? Do you guys know?
they didn't like speak out to us, but like we feel it, from their behaviors,
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Like,
Tell them a story about the.
yeah, there's like a guy in our class, like he's moving like from the beginning of the semester, like from chair to chair until he reach us, and he like stay in our like chair. Like we were like okay with it, like it's not like we don't own it,
Serve first.
Yeah, exactly.
Take the chair, okay.
Then one day we came like first, then he came to us like and he said, "That sucks."
This is sucks, and he looked at us.
Yeah.
He was like, we were like, okay, if we were American, maybe he wouldn't say a thing, because
Yeah.
our law.
Diversity.
Yeah. We're just like, okay, thank you, man. We didn't say anything bad, you know. I mean, this is not the way you deal with it, you know. I mean, and even ignore it. It's not the way to deal with it.
No.
But it's better than you, I mean, respond. And that's happening now, you know. It's like 3 weeks ago. So it's bad.
Yeah. I think I do believe it's the most difficult thing to work on.
Yeah.
Because we all have some sort of, all of us have some sort of discriminatory, you know, not that we want to be, but it's just some of us is there. It's just looking at someone and taking a perception of what you think they do or how you think they are or whatnot. We do have discriminatory practices. Every last one of us, I would say, got something that you know, we show some bias toward another person by just looking at them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it takes a lot to work on it, and for me, it has to come from the heart. First, it's got to be in your heart to not be a racist or a bigot or try to have any kind of racial advantage over someone. That's got to be in your heart. And a lot of people, it's just not in their heart. You know, no matter what they say, you know, it's just not in here for them to really, truly say that they're not a racist or look for an advantage over someone because of their skin color.
Yeah. In high school, I faced basically racism from my own race. Because like I can talk properly, they're like, oh, you're white, and then they just kind of then from that I had to like separate myself from like my own, like I'm supposed to be my own community, which is like kind of like in high school like kind of like alter my perception of my own race, which turned me into like a Uncle Ruckus, if you guys
Right.
experience of that show. But I'm fine now.
That's funny now. That is also in relation to some of the experiences of middle income or upper income African Americans experiences. Like I read this study that shows that those African Americans who have made it in the occupational ladder, they are not being really considered as African Americans because they are really bitter. At the same time, in the same class, social class, people of upper class but who are white don't even see them as part of their class. So it's like they are hanging there. They are not being perceived by their own people as African Americans, and their social class also don't even consider them because the people who made the majority of them are white. So they realize that they are hanging there, you know. So it's kind of funny as you raise that reverse racism. Your own people might perceive you as just because probably you are more enlightened, you are more educated, you are more aware, and the other people too that you perceive that you be closer to, they also don't perceive you that way because they perceive, oh, this person is different because of his skin color, you know. And as I said, like I always tell my student, what I realized about US is that some people are more kind of ignorant. Okay, ignorant in the sense that people don't go out of state, they don't travel a lot, so their whole world evolved around where they were raised at, their locality. You might go to school in the high school over your community, you go to school maybe college, then maybe go out, but hardly. So people think their whole world revolved around their whole family. So if you happen to be born into a family that are racist, you are more going to be taught to despise people of different color. And they might bring that to their college experience. So that's why I keep telling people that be able to open up to people's suggestions. Don't just judge people instantly because of their accent, because of their skin color, or because of their hair. But make the conscious effort to note them. And that puts me into another question which I really want to ask. It may not necessarily be, it's kind of linked to this, because but it's more like the politics stuff about Donald Trump, you know. And it was a question I asked in class, like, some of his comments that he's making and blah blah. I was telling my friend, but people still continue to vote for him. So one student in my class said that this thing in class that people feel that the fame and the perception that Donald Trump is getting and how people are voting for him is really now showing the true nature, the racist nature of Americans. that was a strong statement, and I was like, oh, wow, there's a sense because I myself, when I tell my wife, who's also a Ghanaian, that I can't believe that certain primaries he wins.
Yeah.
And looking at making disparity statement against women, against physically disabled people, against different, but still he begin to get like 43%, 60%. Why wouldn't people vote against it? So what is your perception, like people speaking about the Donald Trump issue being linked to race and being linked to political stuff?
I've done, my undergraduate and master's work is in applied politics. And I
Okay.
would say that whoever that student is tapping into something pretty accurate because what will end up happening, the Democratic Party will most definitely, with good reason, in a sense that there's plenty of material that the man has said that can be called overt bigotry.
Okay.
They're going to paint his candidacy as a racist candidacy. And those that vote for him, the Democratic Party will say, if you vote for that man, then you're a racist.
Oh, okay.
That will be a technique
Okay.
that they employ to get people to not vote for him and to vote for Hillary Clinton or to not vote at all.
Okay.
But I would say there is an element of truth to it that anybody that's voting for him would have to then argue me back, and I don't know how they could do it, which is this. No matter what your political viewpoint is or whatever policies that man brings to the table, those bigoted statements are also there. And so if you tolerate that perspective and that worldview in your leader, your tolerance of that, it makes you
Speaks
tolerant of
Yes,
racism.
Yes, that's true.
Because you can't elect that man to lead you unless you agree with
Yeah,
the
that's true.
approach to living. And so that's going to be a real test, and unfortunately, what it is doing that your student pointed out, it's making that case to the world.
Yeah.
It's showing the world that maybe not half of us, but there's a lot of us in this country that are just fine with racism if the package also says, I'm going to make you rich. Vote for me, I'll give you a job or I'll make you rich. So they're choosing employment over ethics. They're choosing economy
Exactly.
over morality.
And that was the point I was making about economics and race. It just plays, it plays a part. Because if, like you said, if somebody feel they can get a couple rungs up the ladder to tolerate what they really don't believe, but they just doing it so they can get up. I don't know if y'all seen on the news last night, it was an African American pastor in Cleveland
Yeah.
who's,
Okay, we're sorry.
We are shaking the world up.
It's working.
yeah, this guy is a Trump, he's a Trump supporter. And he can, but him and Trump go back, ways. Now look, I can look at it and know that Trump is greasing his pockets a little bit. There's no question about that. For him to be that staunch, you know what I'm saying? And he's the pastor of a church, African American church. So,
I've seen that.
yeah. But again, a lot of it comes back again to perception, to perception, because as you were saying about when you were in high school, how you had some issues with others in your high school. People's appearance, people's perception is a lot about your appearance, because I can just tell you, when I first met you, I try to make sure I dress pretty well every day. When you see me, your perception was you thought I was a professional coming across, because how I was dressed. And yourself, if I look at you, you got the new dude that most of the young African Americans guys wear and whatnot. It's automatic perception now. I gotta tell you, it is. You know what I'm saying? I look at it, and I'm a basketball player most of my life, and now I look at these guys playing basketball, and I be looking at their hairdos, and I be like, man, you know what I'm saying? This is a whole different kind of thing for me. Because, we were always clean cut, but now, these guys got the hair all over the place. But not that they still got good ability, but it's just a perception there. You know what I'm saying? You just have a perception about how people look and how they dressed and how they carry themselves. You automatically, in your mind, have a perception of who they are or what they're about.
Yeah, that's why I like having these, because it breaks down those perceptions, so
Yeah.
you can get to know people a little better.
And you were talking, someone was talking about African Americans being more economically well off, and you know, and I tell you who's really able to talk about race, and they do it, and a lot of stuff they thought is true. It's comedians. Comedians. Listen to a lot of comedians, especially African American comedians. They talk about race, and they talk about a lot of things that happen. It's funny, but it's true. You see what I'm saying? And I know this one comedian kept saying, "Yeah, that person got they still a black person wake up call." You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been watching this O.J. Simpson.
Oh, okay.
People versus O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson got, yeah, you still black wake up call, because most of O.J. Simpson's once he became famous and whatnot, he very seldom would relate to any black folks.
Yeah, that's what I had.
You know what I'm saying? But when that trial came down, the people who supported them was black folks. And that's who really got him off when that trial came down. So, you know, you got to understand that, and I've always been one that I've always tried to be as ethical as I possibly can. And I've not gotten to some positions because of my ethics. I'm like, look, it's not worth me selling out my ethics for this position. You see what I'm saying? I'd rather not have the position. You know, I'm still gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? But if I have to, you know, sell out my ethics and my morals to have a position, that's not where I want to be in life. No.
Right.
Completely agree. It's the time's now starting to wind down, but I'm more than happy to keep talking if you guys want to.
Maybe
What's
I
any?
should have to go to my little boy from school. So.
Well, let's talk about a next step, or give it, like, what's a call to
Okay.
action?
Yeah.
All right, so the call to action is basically to start a social movement of these cubes, and to get people across the country talking to each other. Because I find that just by talking to, like I said earlier, by talking to one another, we begin to understand that our perceptions that we have are false. And through that, it kind of will lead to people like Donald Trump not being able to control people through our differences. And so I really think it can help. But I'm still working on it, like I said, so I can't say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, but I think that maybe by the end of spring break I'll have a real good direction with this. But for now, I'll just be hosting more of these at the Excel Center,
Yep.
if that's cool with you.
Yeah, and the Excel Center is really happy to support what he's doing, you know. When we got started, you know, it's a student and faculty resource to connect our students with experiences to the community. And what he did, which was to come along with just a purely student-driven, student-organized idea, is the epitome of what we want the center to support. And so, not only you, but I mean, this cube concept, I think something that might be an interesting call to action is for the people that come to the cubes, especially the ones that don't stop talking, you know? Maybe we get some people to go out there and start more cubes.
Yeah.
Other people launch the cubes, right? Whoa,
Somebody's one.
whoa.
It's working, yes.
It's working. We are definitely shaking up the
People
system.
are hearing that,
We're
yeah.
shaking up the system.
I don't think we the only ones know we're here. So most people know that
But
we're
it's true,
here.
like there might be a subject that you really don't stop talking about, right? Something that's so keen on your heart that you would love to see a discussion come off of. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe people just like the format and it just grows from there. Because I think you've got something good here that it seems like can really make a difference. Like you said, journey of 1,000 steps, journey of 12,000 miles starts with a single step.
Yeah.
That's most certainly a single step.
Thank you, yeah.
Well, I think this was excellent, and when I talked to Corey the other day, I think this is definitely interesting about this cube being about the topic of race, because the last major race conversation in this country happened at this university, and that's when Bill Clinton was president. Bill Clinton came to the University of Akron at E.J. Thomas Hall, and they had several different leaders from across the country, and E.J. Thomas Hall was packed, and they had a conversation about race. That's the last major conversation about race that happened in this country. That's been maybe about 20 years ago.
Wow.
That happened. So, you know, I do like the concept. And really, it's kind of a focus group concept with less of the rules and regulations too. And it's kind of free flowing and that sort of thing, but it empowers people. And that's what people have to be empowered to be able to talk about this issue and not feel like they have to run and hide if they talk about it. You know what I'm saying? That should not be
Based on that, Fred, he should invite President Obama to come
Yeah.
back to Akron and do a cube before he leaves the presidency.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
If you're listening,
Hey, you're not
Barack
gonna-
President Obama.
You're not
come
gonna
out.
they got a saying, closed mouth don't get fed.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go
Speak
for
up.
it. You know, I mean, you only go around once in this life, so whatever you go for it. Don't half step it.